Hi, I'm Barry Darnall and welcome to another episode of 5 Minute Photography. If you're really getting into photography now, you've probably given some thought to picking up one of these, a digital SLR camera. Well, if you are, you're on the right track. But when you first take a look at these things, if you've never dealt with one before, they can look pretty complex and pretty complicated. And while they might be complex in terms of how they're built, they're not all that complicated to use. So stick with me while we take a tour of the DSLR camera. So a DSLR camera, or digital single lens reflex camera, is basically a 35mm film camera that's been adapted to use an imaging chip instead of film. The image is taken onto the chip, it's stored onto a memory card, and once it's on the card, you can take it, you can put it on your computer, and pretty much do anything with it creatively that you can think of. A DSLR camera is made up of primarily two different components. You've got the camera body, which houses the imaging chip, the memory card, and all of the controls that you need to actually take pictures and control the image that you're taking. And then the second part is, of course, the camera lens. And the camera body, from company to company and model to model, will have some differences in the layout of the controls, but for the most part the controls are pretty much the same no matter what camera you're using. Although the location of the controls on the camera body may be different, they all function pretty much the same way, and you'll have pretty much the same types of controls. You'll have some sort of a control for setting the mode of the camera, where you can put it on full manual, which means you control everything about the camera, the shutter speed, the aperture, and the ISO. You'll have a full auto, where it decides everything for you. You'll also have a shutter priority, where you set the shutter speed and the camera decides what the aperture should be, as well as aperture priority, where you set the aperture and the camera decides what the shutter speed should be. Now, depending on the make and model you have, some cameras will have what are called creative modes, where you can set it to take portraits, landscapes, close-up photography, or sports, and the camera pretty much decides everything for you based on trying to give you a good photograph in that particular shooting situation that you're in. Now, while these modes are fairly good and generally do a pretty good job, there are some limitations to them and some setbacks that we'll talk about in future videos. Now, you'll also have some controls for setting some of the parameters on the camera, such as the ISO, which is basically the sensitivity of the imaging chip, the white balance, the autofocus, or the drive as far as taking a single shot or continuous shots. Now, on the back, you're going to have a screen which lets you basically look at your images shortly after you take them. It also lets you review your images, and you can use it to choose images that you want to keep or images that you want to delete in the camera. You'll also find that it has another dial back here generally, which will let you set some settings, whether it is the aperture or the shutter speed. You'll also have some controls down here to get into the actual camera settings to set some of the more advanced features of the camera and customize it for your personal use. Now, back here you'll also see the viewfinder, which is what you use to look through the lens, focus, and compose your image in order to take your photographs. And you're going to have some compartments or connection areas that let you add to the functionality of the camera and also do some different things with it. Now, on this camera, they're located over here on the side underneath these little rubber covers, and over here you've got an HDMI port to connect it to a monitor. You've got connections to go to a computer. You've also got some connections to link up to a manual flash system, as well as to remotely control the camera. And on the other side, you've got a compartment where if you pop that open, you'll notice in here is the memory card, and this is what you actually store your images on while you're taking photographs. And these come in a host of sizes, anywhere from gigabyte on up to 32 and 64 gigabyte. But depending on your camera model, you may have a limitation on the size of card that you can actually use. And most cameras will also have on the very top what's called a Hotshoe, and the Hotshoe is what you can use to attach a external flash so that you can add more light to your photographs. You can also hook up flash control units, and if you shoot video, you can use it to mount microphones and other devices to help improve your videos. Now, the second component of a DSLR, and probably the most exciting part of it, is the lens. The lenses on a DSLR are interchangeable, and what that means is I can take this lens off and I can set it off to the side, and I can grab another lens and put it on there. Now you can get lenses that are wide angle, telephoto, zoom lenses, macro lenses. So basically any kind of situation or subject that you come up with, you can find a lens that lets you make the most out of your photo shoot. Now all of these features, the ability to store your images on a card, the ability to control every aspect of your photograph with the settings, as well as the creative possibilities that come with all the multiple lenses that you can use on the camera, make this an extremely versatile tool and pretty much a limitless number of options for taking photographs of whatever you can conceive of. And that's why this type of camera has been so popular for so long. And even though there are improvements coming up almost every day in the industry, this basic form of camera is going to be around for some time, and it's going to be an extremely useful tool for anybody, including somebody just starting out. So that's pretty much the tour of the DSLR camera. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. If you get a chance, if you can like and subscribe using the buttons down below, and if you have any comments or suggestions, we'd love to see them. Once again, thanks for watching the videos, and I hope to see you soon.